Hello, everyone. My name is Mirna, and on behalf of the Mindalia TV team, welcome to Mindalia live streaming, where thousands of people around the world gather daily to see the lectures and interviews organized by Mindalia TV. Today, we have the great pleasure of having with us Jose Esparza. Jose is the founder of Centro Comunitario de Autoayuda in Seattle, which is a community center for self help, and he is also the host of the CCA Radio Online. But before starting with Jose, we want to remind you that Mindalia's mission is to share information that can help raise the level of consciousness in the planet, and you can help us by subscribing to our channel, leaving us a positive comment down this video, or sharing it with someone that you know that can benefit of the content that we're going to be talking here today. Also, while we are live streaming, we're going to have an active chat screen you're going to see here on my side or under the video in case that you're following us from a smartphone, and through there you can interact with us. You're very welcome to enter questions. We also want you to collaborate with Mindalia with your own valuable content. For that, you can go to our website. On the top, you are going to find a link. That link says collaborate with Mindalia. It takes you to a form that you can fill out so our technical team can be able to get in contact with you. You can collaborate with Mindalia in English through Mindalia TV English, but you can also do it in Spanish through Mindalia Televisión and Portuguese through Mindalia Televisao. Visit our different channels and platforms. Go to our Facebook pages and Instagram accounts, because when you do that, you are not only helping us reach as much people in the planet as possible, but you also keep yourself updated with the amazing information that we are sharing there on a daily basis. Information as beautiful and as interesting as the one that you're already used to see in Mindalia TV English. We're not going to be delaying this any further, and I have the great pleasure of saying welcome to Mindalia live streaming. Jose, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm here, relaxed, listening to the introduction of the program, and very happy to share with you information that we have put in practice through the years, and that will help us in many, many ways to have better relationship with the world and within ourselves.
That sounds amazing. So today you have been with us a couple times. You are a man that has a lot of knowledge and you're helping a lot of people out there. But we chose today to be talking about listening. Apparently, to what I've been talking with you, and I completely agree. We entered in conversations and we talk, but we are hearing, but maybe we are not actually listening. What can you say about that?
Well, yes, it takes us back on time when we were little kids. How many times our parents repeat and repeat and repeat things that we are supposed to, rules that we're supposed to follow. Uh, Being a child, well, you are connected to your own inner rule, you are connected to nature and the elements of nature and so on. But as we grow up, we also grow our personality, our senses, our sensorial senses start achieving information through different topics, school, society, beliefs, and so on. And the word listening sounds to be something that is very easy to practice, but in fact, it's very hard to practice to listening. Most of the time, when somebody's speaking to us, like if we attend to some kind of seminar, the speaker is doing his effort to give us a message, but many, many times we are distracted. And today we have the smartphones, which is one of the problems, but we most of the time we're distracted. But when we don't have the phone, we are not listening to what the preacher or the messenger or the teacher is trying to teach us, because we are forgotten about ourselves, and probably our mind is traveling in different directions, and we just forget about the importance of listening to whoever is trying to teach us something. So listening is not easy. It's easier to talk, and it's hard to listen. Most of the time, it's very hard to listen. But we're gonna learn today what is a proper way, the proper conscious way of learning how to listen to avoid future problems. Like if you work for a company where you have to take orders. As I mentioned to you earlier, somebody in Alaska ordered a heater because it was very cold over there, and they send them air conditioned. So it doesn't make any sense. What happened?
You just have
Common
to put it outside in.
So what happened there? Whoever took the order uh, did not listen to the order, and instead of sending a heater to Alaska, they send an air conditioner. So that does not make any sense. And most of the time, we can experience this with common people. You talk to them, you say something, a lot of uh, uh, many times this information is being translated wrongly, or the message is going to the place where we're not supposed to go. And we have to study what is called the bad secretary within. The bad secretary within has relationship what is called in psychology that's the psychological eyes. When we hear the psychological eyes, we might tend to think, what is he talking about? Well, the psychological eyes is the different voices that we carry within ourselves most of the time. If you observe ourselves consciously, we can discover that the psychological eye has to do with a lot of things that happened to us in the past, what is called memory, bad experiences, projections of the future, projections of the past, and those uh, different thinkings and desires that we have within. That's what is called a psychological eye, which means that when somebody is talking to you, you're not actually listening to that person. You're listening to your own psychological eye, which is doing the bad interpretation of the message. So this is very important. Is kind of surprising for me that today they talk about all kinds of knowledge, but they never talk about the psychological eye. And that's
Well,
very,
let's bring it back.
yes. So it is very important that when we're thinking, that's not our conscious way of thinking. It's actually we are being controlled by different thoughts, ideas, memories, resentments. It's also called the internal country. As we see the country outside ourselves with different levels, peoples, and different cultures and ideas, we also carry a psychological country within ourselves. Sometimes we are there and we are not here. Like when someone comes and says something to us and we react because we didn't expect no one to come near us or put their hand on our shoulder and we're scared. If we can observe through that moment, where were we? We were connected to something in the past or the future, because most of the time that's how our mind is projecting, projecting, and projecting. Same thing happened like when somebody's trying to give you a knowledge, and at the moment that person is trying to give you a knowledge, you kind of reject that information because your mind is too full with information that you cannot accept something new because there's no time, there's no space. We have to free some of the spaces like the brain of the computer. If your computer is full of information and you want to put new information, it will not accept that information because the brain of the computer is full of information. So either you have to buy more memory or you have to buy a new computer. Same thing happen in the human behavior. A lot of times we are too full of information. That information does not make us happy. We're not uh, practical in that information. Is just something that is achieved there, but it has no good use for ourselves to grow internally. So learning how to listen is very hard, as you can
Guilty.
see.
I'm
And
like guilty here.
no, and as I mentioned this, it doesn't mean that I already mastered this. Remember, consciousness has different levels. Consciousness, it can be awake from 1% to 100%. So we can be conscious in certain levels of life, but we can be unconscious in another levels of life. But it means at the same time that we have to pay attention where we are to find ourselves, to
Present.
to be present exactly, to practice the philosophy of the moment, because the past is gone, like they say, and the future is not here yet. So when it comes to a relationship with people who will live in our homes, like if we happen to rent a room to one of our friends, we can explore that while living in the same place, we tend to react and reject and repel to each other because it's different when you see a person outside your house and you see a person at work or you see a person in a cafeteria that when you have to live with a person within close to you, then you get to see, oh my goodness, I get along with these people outside my house, but inside my house, I don't get along with with this person. And it happens many times with couples that, you know, the beginning is beautiful. You go here, you go there, you agree, and that so on. But when you're living together, then you start finding out that something is not right.
It's
The
too much
person,
time together, too much time.
exactly. So relationships these days, because we don't know how to listen, we don't know how to respect, we don't learn, we're not in the same path. We have different ideas. Relationships these days are very, very hard to have because that's one of the problems. We don't study what is called the psychological I. Now, being consciously, I always use this sample with little kids.
Okay.
Little kids from 1 year to 5 years old, and before they start going to school, it could be a kid from England, from Mexico, from Panama, from Africa, from different parts of the world. They play together. Even they don't speak the same language, they get along. They find a way to communicate.
You can
But
see them just like puppies. You throw a couple puppies in the patio and they're gonna have fun by themselves.
little, yeah, exactly. So, but what happens after they develop what is called a personality? We have to know that personality is energetic. Little kids don't have personality. What they have is consciousness. They comprehend. They have a perception of life big, bigger than we have. They're not stuck in theories, beliefs, or any bad memories because their nature have given them the what is called the essence, the consciousness. But as they go to school, when we give them these smartphones, these iPads, then they start growing along with their minds, their senses, what is called the personality.
They're
So
also being indoctrinated in a way. Society is just bombarding them with how you are supposed to be and what you are supposed to like, so you are liked, right?
yes, so we take away their innocence, their perception of things, because they have to go to school. And I don't mean that the education is bad. I don't want to give that bad information. No, no. What I'm saying is that if we don't help the kid to continue connected to his own essence, to his own consciousness, and we permit society to to feed them with all kinds of information to take him away from his natural behavior, that then we're facing this kind of problem with society, with kids these days. I mean, we see these news every day of kids committing suicide at early age because we are just keeping them away from what they really are within. And as human beings, each day that goes by with all kinds of beliefs, being rich, being poor, we still don't communicate. We don't know how to respect other people's beliefs. We don't know how to get along with other people because we want to impose our way of thinking. So as long as we don't conquer what we already have at the beginning of our creation of this body, what is called consciousness and essence, we are not going to get along with nobody, because when we read a book, all this information goes, like I said, the reason there's all kinds of beliefs these days is because a psychological eye has a different perception of things, and he wants to create things accordingly to what he thinks is the proper way to believe. And we have these days all kinds of abusive people, politics, religious leaders, all kinds of stuff, because we never take the time to study the psychological eye.
Wow. It's I find that super interesting, and you know what? There are two things that come to my mind with what you're saying. One is, of course, mindfulness, which is very trendy now. It's been around forever, but now people are very enthusiastic with mindfulness. And the other one is, I don't know, I'm pretty sure you have heard of A Course in Miracles, that it
Mm,
says that I don't understand or I don't really know what I'm seeing. And I remember that when you said that we are worried, or our brain is working more on giving an interpretation to what you're listening to, instead of actually focusing on what the person is telling you. And the third, you know what, actually there's a third thing, and it's the that book that's called Four Agreements for Don Miguel Ruiz, that says never assume. You're listening
mhm,
something, and that's pretty
mhm.
much me. I'm gonna have to say guilty here. I do it all the time. I'm
Me too.
listening to someone, and I'm there, but at the same time, I'm somewhere else. I'm trying to figure out what happened before. I'm trying to think what's gonna happen later, and I'm giving that interpretation of what the person is telling me. And in the end, I'm assuming what they are trying to say and what their intentions are, and in the end, I think I'm getting a message that is completely different to what the person is trying to say. So, have you developed like a series of steps that we can follow so we can avoid following on that loop?
Well, yeah, the paying attention consciously means that you have to have some kind of discipline. I mean, it's too much to ask for someone to comprehend the message that you're trying to give if their mind is not there. Their body is there, but the mind is in different directions. So how can we do our mind to be present with our body and to bring consciousness into to be active? Because consciousness, we can use the word many times. Oh, I'm being conscious about certain things, I'm being conscious about this, I'm being conscious about that, but actually it's the opposite. The word consciousness represents that the person has to awake consciousness. When I say awake consciousness, it really means that our consciousness is asleep. We woke up in the morning. We right now we're having our coffee. We're having this conversation, but probably we don't remember what we dreamed, and maybe it's not important to us. And then we just continue repeating the process of life in a mechanical form. We get in confrontation with different situations repeatedly all the time, and nothing is going to change unless you decide to make those changes within. I mean, a person who has drinking problems, it will be in the process of repeating the same process of drinking every day, and it's going to bring to their lives problems according to what they're doing, cause and effect. And if you wake up in the morning complaining all the time about the situations of life, complaining about the president, complaining about the religious abuses, complaining about every issue, then your life will be repeatedly, constantly the same behavior. Unless you stop and say, wait a minute, I have to do something different with my life. Like if we have this confrontation with a person who dislikes you or just don't agree for what you're saying or what you do, then many times we complain saying, oh, wherever I go, people criticize me. wherever I go, people don't dislike me, and you have to realize and stop and meditate and say, why am I bringing these kind of problems to my life? I moved to a different country and I have the same problems. I moved to a different job and I have the same problems. I have different relationships and I have end up having the same problems. What's going on?
The problem isn't your luggage, your backpack. You have it there.
The luggage in the subconscious.
Yes.
So it's like when you have to clean your closet. You have a lot of things in your closet that you don't need, but you don't put it away because each shoe, each dress, each suit has a memory and attachment, like a picture, for instance. There's pictures that you have there that you don't want to get rid of because they have memories.
Yeah.
It
And you're
has
scared that if you let that go, the memory is going to go away. It's not going to be part of you anymore. And it's just going to be gone. Right.
exactly. And as I was mentioning, there's people who has gone through 3 relationships, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then at the end they realize that the problem was not the other person but ourselves.
It's
Like I
always the only problem.
like I mentioned to this guy who's married like 5 times, and then he says, I think I'm gonna stop because I realized that the problem is because I don't know how to comprehend. I don't know how to listen. So it took him very many problems in order to for him to realize that it was a matter of the way we didn't know how to manage or didn't know how to comprehend the other person. And another thing, uh, if somebody tells you that what you're doing is wrong, the first reaction is like, what's wrong with this person?
We never like anybody telling us that there's something wrong with us.
Exactly. You know, especially I know people who's out of work. I mean, there's a lot of work, but they don't like to go to work because they don't like the boss to be telling them what to do. So they say,
Hey, it's your boss.
I
That's his job.
exactly. And then it reminds me one time when I was having some kind of unconscious behavior, and my wife says, you know, Jose, let me tell you something. You know a lot of things, and I respect that. But this attitude that you're having right now is not is not a proper one. And I said, I look at her and I said, what are you talking about?
Strike
Nobody,
one.
nobody tell me that before. And she says, well, it's about time that you know.
Oh, I love it. And she's
So,
amazing, by the way.
so when she told me that my behavior was not the proper one, then I had to check with my heart. That the essence and the consciousness is within this heart, your heart, and everybody's heart. Remember that the perception that we have in our mind is a psychological eye. It's our ego. So when someone tells us, "Hey, that's not right. You're the way you're behaving is not the proper way," and your first reaction is the mind, and say, "Hey, wait a minute. You're not perfect. You have your defects also. You have the way you have negative, toxic behavior. You're not perfect. So you're protecting your ego, your pride, your image. But instead of doing that, you close your eyes, you go into your heart, and you try to comprehend that the word or the message from your couple, your teacher, your boss, your spiritual guider, whatever, close your eyes. I mean, don't accept the the criticize at that moment. Don't react. Take it within, assimilate, and then talk to your heart. Don't defend yourself. Don't argue. Don't don't go against the person. Just go within your heart. Take few days, few minutes, whatever. Learn how to meditate, and then when you take this message inside, you're gonna see yourself like a movie acting the way exactly what like my wife said, look, this is you. And I had to close my eyes and say, oh, she's right. There
Jose,
was,
isn't that liberating when you have the guts to say, you know what? Yes, I made a mistake. I was wrong. Isn't that the best feeling ever to not, you don't have to wait till anybody comes and points at you, but you realize yourself and you get yourself out of that burden.
you free yourself. Exactly.
What
Part of
happened
the,
after that? What happened after you had that conversation? Things got better.
well, then I had to have a plan.
Oh,
Because,
discipline.
yeah, discipline. Because if I continue repeating the same process again to a point that she's gonna get upset, many times people don't say nothing, especially woman. You
Has
ask
to,
woman,
yeah, our
you
culture has taught us to be in a way, and even if we want, there's like that subconscious thing that says you have to be agreeable and only always pleasing and always serving, and you shine by serving. And some of the times, or most of the times, we just have an attitude, and what's wrong with you? Nothing. Right.
and that means a lot. And
Yes.
that means a lot. Yeah, I see movies from the 50s, 40s, 60s, and woman was supposed to obey man, obey his master, and then we have the extremes now. Uh,
Exactly.
but we have to be being conscious is being in the middle of every
Balance.
situation. Balance, exactly. In the middle, we find that we have to practice a great spiritual value or conscious value, what is called being humble.
Woo, that's a hard one.
That's a hard one because most of the time, what is very active within ourselves is being egocentric,
Yep.
being bright, feeling important, feeling like you are the master of the universe, and it's not that way. When you observe the behavior of Buddha, Jesus Christ, uh, and these different masters, you find that they're very humble.
They
Dalai
have
Lama,
to.
Dalai Lama. I mean, because through being humble is being like in the equilibrium of comprehension. When you comprehend something, then you assimilate the responsibility of your actions. And at that moment, exactly, you free yourself. We have talked to people that during a family reunion, they don't want to go because they're going to be a family member there, that they have uh, bad information uh, to this family member for many years. And when you say to them, why don't you just break the path, break the chain, go to the person, say, I'm sorry for what I did. I was not in the level of comprehend what you were telling me, but now I understand what you're saying. I'm sorry. This happens to sons, to their parents, to mothers, to their daughters, that they don't get along, they don't talk to each other, or they kind of in distance. They don't want them to be so close together because they're hurt.
Yes.
Their ego is hurt, but consciousness is different.
You know what is my new tool? Whenever I'm in a situation like that, I ask myself, who's hurting? Is it you or your ego? And then it's like, is that girl? Yeah, let her suffer. She's gonna be fine. She's gonna get better.
So accepting uh, our mistakes, accepting our wrongly behavior is not easy. So we're not only having here the problem of learning how to listen, but now learning how to comprehend
I love
and,
it.
and how to release. How do you know that you overcome a problem with a person? Is when you see that person again and you are freeing yourself through pure merely comprehension, taking your own responsibility of your behavior and to learn how to change it. When you see that person again and you say, hi, how are you? Nice to see you. And the person will might look at you and say, Don't we hate each other? And then you say, not on my side, not anymore.
Wow.
And then that person might say, what do you do? Because I still hate you. And you say, well, I realize this and that. I learned of this topic of learning how to listen. I learned of this topic about the psychological eyes. I learned in this topic of how to comprehend and how to take responsibility of my actions. And I did wrong to you, and I want to apologize. If-
Wow. That is freedom, Jose.
And then you want to do the same, I would like to share with you this information. If you want to be in prison of hating me, that's your own option,
Yes.
not mine anymore.
Exactly. You're free. You're free to hold your grudge. I love what you're saying, and I find really interesting the fact of we never, when someone says you hurt my feelings, you go ahead and you say no, I didn't. Like that's not your decision. You don't really get to choose if what you did harmed them or no. I don't know if I'm explaining myself. Like everybody, if they feel that way, they feel that way, and they have a right of feeling that way. Of course, they are in control of the way they feel, but you don't get to choose how someone else is gonna be feeling, right?
No, no, no. That's not your responsibility. A lot of times, families, they don't want to say nothing to their husbands or to their kids because they are afraid that they're going to get mad. I say, hey, wait a minute. You are the parent here. If you see that something is wrong with your couple, with your kids, hey, it's your job to let them know that what they're doing is not the right thing.
I love what you're saying here.
If they're mad, if they get mad, that's their problem.
I love it. You
I
know
mean,
what? I'm sorry. Continue, please.
it's your responsibility if you have uh, another level of consciousness, and this has to be understood. Consciousness likes to do things the proper way, the right way, not to impose, not to uh, make the people obligate the people to do what you're saying. Consciousness gives you different options. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. You can always learn from the bad way and continue. But people stay on the bad toxic way and is continuously repeating that wrong toxic way all their lives until they die, hurting people, hurting themselves. When something is not right, when the consequences are not a positive consequence, then you have to say to yourself, this is not conscience. This is unconsciousness. Because every unconsciousness behavior gives you pain and suffering. So it's a way of saying, this is not the right way. I had to choose another way. But I learned from this mistake. So everything has to do with your psychological eye. If I complain myself about being in a circle of people where they hate me, it's because when I open my mouth, I talk bad about everyone. Or somebody comes to me and gossip something about a certain person, then I go around and tell everybody else what the person told me and create a bad environment. I mean, a lot of people hate their jobs. Why they hate their jobs? Because they don't know how to control the mouth. This little thing.
The
So
hardest muscle to control, the tongue.
exactly. So consciousness means I got this information, but it's gonna end up here. I'm not gonna be part of it. I'm not gonna open my mouth. So that's taking control of your behavior and you're practicing consciousness. If somebody tells me, hey, how come you're angry all the time? How come you're reacting all the time? How come you're saying bad things all the time? That's something that you don't perceive, but the other person is telling you, hey, something is
Slow it
wrong with
down.
me. So do something for yourself. If I get mad, I mean, like my wife tells me something and I get mad, then I have two problems. I had to control that behavior, the feeling, and I had to do changes if I want that relationship to work or to be something better. Bad words in the house, we're not use those bad words. We have a kid who is learning.
Yeah,
And
absorbing, right?
we don't have drinking problems. We don't have anything that can damage my son's mind. We want to be
Development.
a good example for my kid. Then he's gonna go on the streets and he's gonna see many things. Then we have to guide him.
Exactly.
He said, "This is the psychological eye. That kid has a psychological eye. He doesn't know, but you know. So don't do it. Don't do what other people do."
You know what I say at home? Because yeah, I completely agree. We are supposed, if we see something that is not proper, to go respectfully. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be rude. But it's important to go to the person and tell them, listen, I've been seeing, and I think that maybe you are doing, X and Z. Um, so what I say to my family, because I sometimes I tend to get a little bit, too jumpy, and I tell them, just go ahead and do it, say it. Maybe I'm gonna get upset for a little bit, but it's gonna go away. So don't pay attention. And I've said it to my daughter as well. I'm like, honey, if you need to tell me something and you think I'm gonna be upset, do it anyways. I may be upset for a couple minutes. Then I'm gonna cool down and I'm gonna come to my senses and I'm gonna be thankful for what you say. And that
Exactly.
is until you train yourself to actually receive inputs and receive feedback from the people around you. Otherwise, you don't have a way of growing.
If they don't tell you, you're gonna continue repeating the same process. And I don't wanna be involved in with people who only follows me what I said and
Only
yeah,
yeses. Only
yeah,
yeses.
no,
Yeah,
no,
you're good.
no.
You're great. Have you
Yeah.
heard that poetry that says, it says something about there was a king that died out of loneliness because nobody ever said, because he was a good king and nobody ever said anything wrong about him. And he didn't even have someone that he could lose at playing chess with. Everybody would let him win, and he just died out of boredom. He didn't have
Wow.
anywhere to grow. He just got stuck there.
No, so it's better to know. I mean, sometimes even if we are being criticized, knowing that we have the ego as a first reaction, control the ego and go beyond the ego, and you're gonna find the consciousness, the way of seeing things. Like I remember a time where a mother took her daughter to a psychologist because she was being bullied at school. And the way she was being bullied at school is because they told her that she was overweight and she was fat.
Mhm.
So she was suffering because the kids were saying those things to her. So when the mother took the daughter to the psychologist says, "And what do you expect me to tell you? Your daughter is fat." And I mean, that is true. Is when we go outside and then we hear this criticizing against us, a lot of it is true, but our perception is different because we are seeing ourselves through our psychological eye and
Yes.
not through our psychological consciousness, which is two perceptions completely different. One will free you, the other one will slave you.
Yeah, that's
That's
what I actually say that to my daughter whenever she's outside. I tell her, it's okay if they don't like you. Oh, mom, they said this and that. I'm like, it's okay. Let them think that because you don't think great about everybody in school, right? There are some kids that you don't like. It's okay. You cannot like people. People cannot like you. You're still going to continue with your lives, and you may be surprised that one of those kids that you didn't like before, they end up within 5 years being your best friends. Just let it go. You don't need to be liked by everybody.
like they say, true friends tell you the truth about you.
I love it. Yep. And
And, now, the other thing is to find the proper way to say it.
that's a very important thing.
The proper way has to do, if you do it in a very perceptive, negative way, then people is gonna be hurt because of the way you're saying it.
Hmm.
But it's like a kid. Most of the time, we have to realize that we want to be treated nicely. Everybody responds to nicely way of treating other people.
Kind and loving and
Yes, and many times people say, "Hey, I don't care if the truth hurts. Say it, but say it in a gentle way, please."
I love that you're bringing that up because you see many times that people say I am sincere and we're gonna say whatever I think, and that is great. But you could also say it kindly,
Yes,
and it may hurt in the beginning because you never want to hear something that is, makes you feel vulnerable. But it's gonna go away with time, and you're gonna actually value that person that had the guts to come and tell you something that nobody else was doing, right? So yes,
exactly.
we can be sincere, we can be authentic, we can be transparent, but
Hmm.
you don't have to do it in a way. You can always choose kind words, a loving body language, and a
Yes,
loving approach to express your feelings, and you're gonna feel better yourself actually, right?
yes. So in my life, I had two instructors. One was very rude, very direct, and the other one was very, very respectful. And I asked to myself, which one I learned more from? And I said, when I didn't know nothing about life, when I was being hurt because of my actions, I needed a strong one, that direct one, the
Hmm.
transparent one that say, "You continue doing what you're doing, you're gonna be," I needed that
The one with the chancla.
with with the belt. And one was to make me realize that I need to do changes, and the other one make me realize that I need to comprehend how to do those changes.
So there's a time for everything.
Yes,
There is a time and a way for everything. And I love that you bring that topic because I was actually talking earlier with my dad about that. Because I was telling him, because he is always like, he was the type of guy that never ever used violence around us because he's, believe in free will and whatnot. We came out decently. We came out okay. But I was talking to my daughter in probably a high tone because I was telling him that it feels that if you don't raise your voice, they don't listen. And he looks at me and says, like, you're right. Because what is that? And it has a lot to do with what you're saying. That sometimes, especially kids, I don't know if it's they are used to or if they are not paying attention, they are not mindful, they are not present, and that is, we are going to have to talk about that more. A
yes.
great practice for us as parents to be present. Probably we are not even there when they talk, and
No, we're
then
not.
they get used to having conversations with us in which we are somewhere else, including themselves. But it feels, and you have a younger kid, more or less my daughter's age, or what I remember. Do you feel the same that sometimes if you're not authoritarian, they just, it's like that whatever you're telling them, it just goes away, they don't even see it? Does it happen to you, and what tools do you have to work on that?
It happens most of the time, especially when we are occupied doing different kind of things. Hey, Anael, don't do this. Anael, why you do this? And things like that. He's like, forget it. One time he says, "You're a pair of crazy parents," he says. So we didn't pay attention to that. So now what we do, we put in between ourselves. I'm on one side, the mother is on the other side. We turn the TV off, we turn everything down, and we talk. We want to make sure that he's listening this time. So, and same thing in our relationship. When she says, "I need to talk to you," I go, "Hmm?
Ooh.
What? What's going on?" So we just go in the room. We look at our eyes. We start talking. We start communicating. We start trying to comprehend the situation, and then to have a plan to disarm the problem or to make changes. And same
Reverse
thing with the
engineer the problem.
and same thing with the kids. We set them between us, and they say, "Look, Anael, The teacher said that you're not following its instructions, that you are jumping or making noise, whatever. And if you don't listen, if you don't change this behavior, we're going to take the cartoons away from you. We're going to take the TV away from you. I'm not going to take you fishing. I'm not going to buy you nothing. You're going to start losing things. And of course,
And it works?
most of the time, but you
Okay.
have to remember, you have to remind. It's like us. We have to be reminded constantly of what we have to, of the changes that we have to do. Every relationship is kind of different.
It's a negotiation all the time, I guess.
Yes, yes, and you have to comprehend the way your couple see things and the way you see things, and try to make it work. Because, like I said, the ego, the eyes, is the cause of all our problems. If there's no ego within, if there's no eyes within, which is hard to find, then but you have a way of disarming or getting rid, because you can transform the eyes, you can transform the ego if you want. I mean, it's just a matter of paying attention to that. If you pay attention to that and you get to study the mind, you get to study the emotions that control the way the ego controls you, then consciously you get to see the way he acts, and then you have a plan of stopping it. And that means you have to have some kind of discipline.
Wow, I love it.
Without discipline, there's nothing you can do.
We are about to wrap this up. And before we leave, I want to ask you, once you discovered that you had that flow in your listening process and you started studying about how to properly listen, and you started comprehending all the structures in our mind that are preventing us from actually processing the information properly, you started applying that to your life. And as we were talking earlier, that this doesn't mean that we perfectly do it. This means that we are trying to incorporate that into our lives. So what are the changes that you have seen in your life, and what do you think are the improvements that someone can see in their life if they start to actually paying attention, being present, and consciously, actively listening to the person that they have in front of them during a conversation?
Well, one of the benefits is that when you find that you have this psychological behavior, what is called a psychological eye. For instance, if you're a person who's angry all the time, then you have to count how many times on the day you get angry and what is the reason you get angry for. So when you find out the reasons and the way it controls you, then every day is like, I had to work within this behavior. If I get angry 20 times a day for different reasons, then I had to drop it to 15, to 10, to 5, and sometimes to 0. What that means is that the every psychological I has a value deep inside the psychological I. It has a essence that needs to be free. For instance, hate and love are two different things. You cannot feel love if you have hate. When you disarm hate, then you feel more love. But the more you practice love, the less you have hate. You see what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's up to whatever you want to practice, whatever you want to free from within yourself. Consciousness has different levels and different uh, values within that we have to free from the wrongly doing.
Wow. Thank you, Jose. And I think that is, we have touched so many different topics that
Yes,
I think that we will need to actually have a full hour for each one of them.
yes.
I love that you're talking about love and hate, and I'm pretty sure that you have great concepts about love and hate and what makes us position ourselves within one or the other one. Jose, as we finish, we want to ask you, where can our audience find you? Can you tell a little bit about the center and how can they reach out to you?
Well, we have a Facebook.
Okay.
they can go to Facebook, Centro Comunitario de Autoayuda.
Okay.
They can find us there. We also have a website,
Okay.
Centro Comunitario de Autoayuda .org.
Okay.
They can find us there. Um, and through our radio is called CCA Seattle .coster.fm.
Thank
They
you.
can also find us there.
Jose, what do you guys offer in the center so people are aware? Because I know it's super cool.
It's many things. Like this topic, we have like 200 topics with different issues. We are recognized by the city of where we are as a family supporters, with which people come over here. They listen to our conferences. Many times they get different tools, different ideas of how to change their lives. But if they need professional help, that we can guide them through professional psychologists or psychiatrists, whatever. But
So,
most of
I'm sorry, continue.
but many times people just listen to our concept, take the different tools of knowledge, and they fix their own problems.
Wow. Basically, it's a space in which you are open to listen whatever is going on in people's life. No shame, no taboo, no judging. You're just there to listen and to provide help within what you can. And if not,
Yes,
you just direct them to a professional that can actually, provide
exactly.
um,
If they need to, if
if
they
they
need
need.
to,
That's
if they need
amazing.
to. But most of the people, like they say, they only listen to us. They ask questions. This is a knowledge. This is a study that we have to put in practice. And a lot of times, when people listen to us, they put in practice what they listen to, and they fix their own problems.
That sounds perfect. And you also offer, within other things, you offer yoga, or at least you did before, and marriage
My wife,
counseling, right?
my wife does yoga, and we in meditation.
Okay.
And if there's family, like a couple problems, that we can make programs or classes in relation to couple problems, some kind of orientation. If there's a problems with youth, with kids, then we go and do that. If there's problems because people they don't know how to uh, follow rules in their homes and the consequences, then we give them the ideas, give them the tools, everything uh, to achieve happy families.
Wow, that's amazing. Jose,
Mhm.
thank you so much. I know for what I have heard that you guys are doing a great job, and that is something that is definitely rewarded in this life or another one.
Yes.
We want to thank you again for sharing your ideas, letting us be a channel for your wisdom, and to our beautiful audience. Thank you also for being with us, for liking, for subscribing, not only this platform, but also Mindalia Televisión in Spanish and Mindalia Televisao in Portuguese. Visit our Facebook pages, Instagram accounts, and follow us, because with that, you are not only helping us reach as much people in the planet as possible, you are also keeping yourself updated with the amazing information we share there on a daily basis. You can also collaborate with us with your own valuable content. For that, you can go to our website. You're going to find the link says collaborate with Mindalia. That link takes you to a form that you can fill out, and our technical team will be getting in contact with you. We're sending you a very big hug from our heart to
Thank you.
yours. Thank you. And until
Thank
next
you very
time,
much.
bye bye.
Okay. Take care.